You're scrolling through Instagram at 2 a.m., watching someone your age buy their dream house, and you think to yourself, I could do that. You've got the vision, the talent, maybe even a better idea than they had. But here's the thing. When morning comes and it's time to actually do something about it, you hit snooze. You tell yourself you'll start Monday. You'll begin after you finish that Netflix series. You'll take action once you've watched just a few more YouTube videos about success. If that's you, if you've got million-dollar dreams, but can't seem to get off the couch, then what I'm about to tell you will either change your life or make you really uncomfortable. Because there was a guy just like you, and one random Saturday afternoon, everything shifted. His name was Daniel, 27 years old, living in a cramped fifth-floor apartment in downtown Chicago. Now, Daniel wasn't your average guy. While his buddies were cool with their 9-to-5s, grabbing beers on Friday and calling it a life, Daniel had bigger plans. He wanted to launch a startup, write a bestseller, get absolutely shredded at the gym, learn to code, maybe change the world while he was at it. His apartment wall looked like a Pinterest board exploded on it. Sticky notes everywhere with goals, deadlines, motivational quotes from people like Gary Vee and Elon Musk. His bookshelf was stacked with every self-help book you can imagine. Atomic Habits, The 4-Hour Workweek, Can't Hurt Me. All of them dog-eared and highlighted like he was studying for the Success final exam. Every time he read a chapter, he'd get this rush, this feeling like, yes, this is it. I'm gonna do this. But here's where it gets real. Daniel never actually did a damn thing. Every single morning, he'd wake up fired up, telling himself, all right, today's the day. Today I'm gonna make it happen. But by lunchtime, that fire had fizzled out. By dinner, it was completely gone. He'd tell himself he'd start the business next quarter when he had more capital saved up. He'd promise he'd write the book next year when things settled down at his job. He'd swear he'd hit the gym on Monday, right after he finished binge-watching Succession. His friends stopped asking him about his plans because they knew nothing had changed. His mom would visit, see the exact same sticky notes that had been there for 8 months, and she'd say softly, honey, you know dreams without action are just fantasies, right? Daniel would nod, feel that sting of shame for about 5 minutes. And then he'd open YouTube and watch videos of entrepreneurs crushing it, because somehow watching other people succeed felt easier than actually starting himself. Every night, lying in bed staring at the ceiling, Daniel would wrestle with this one question that ate at him. Why am I like this? I'm not dumb. I've got skills. I've got ambition. So why the hell can't I just start? He felt like a Ferrari sitting in a garage with a dead battery, all that horsepower, all that potential, just collecting dust. Then one Saturday, everything changed. Daniel grabbed coffee with his old college roommate, Alex, at this hipster cafe in Brooklyn. They hadn't seen each other in 2 years. The second Alex walked in, Daniel noticed something different about him. The guy was glowing, confident, like he'd unlocked some cheat code to life. So what have you been up to? Daniel asked, expecting the usual corporate job talk. Alex grinned. Remember that app idea I had back in sophomore year? The one literally everyone told me was stupid and would never work? Daniel remembered. Actually, he'd had almost the same idea himself, but never did anything with it. Dude, I built it. Leaning forward. Launched 6 months ago. We just crossed 50,000 users last week. I quit my job at Goldman Sachs last month to run it full-time. We're raising our Series A next quarter. In that moment, Daniel's coffee tasted like dirt. He forced a smile, congratulated Alex, asked all the right questions, but inside, something was crumbling. Because 2 years ago, Daniel and Alex had been identical. Same dreams, same ideas, same potential. The only difference? Alex had actually started. Daniel hadn't. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He sat at his desk at 2 a.m., staring at his vision board, the same goals from 2 years ago that hadn't moved an inch. He grabbed his journal and wrote the words he'd been avoiding his entire adult life. I'm not unlucky. I'm not waiting for the right moment. I'm not being strategic. I'm just scared. And I've been hiding behind planning so I never have to face the possibility of failing. His hand was shaking as he kept writing. I'm 27 years old. How many more years am I going to waste being all talk and no action? How many more Alexes am I going to watch blow past me while I stay frozen? He put his head in his hands and whispered, "What the hell am I so afraid of?" The next morning, Daniel couldn't sit in that apartment another second. He jumped in his beat-up Honda Civic and drove out to Bear Mountain, about an hour north of the city. He needed space to think, to breathe. He started walking up this random trail, not really paying attention to where he was going, just walking, when he spotted this old guy sitting on a boulder tying his hiking boots. The man had to be at least 70, but his eyes were sharp alive. "Starting a little late in the day," the old man said, looking at Daniel's Vans and jeans. "I'm not really hiking," Daniel admitted. "Just walking, trying to clear my head." The old man smiled. "The best climbs always start with a cluttered head. Name's Robert. Been climbing these mountains for 40 years. They got to talking, and for some reason, Daniel just opened up, told this complete stranger about his dreams. His paralysis, his feeling of being completely stuck. Robert listened without interrupting, then pointed to a distant peak lit up by the morning sun. "You see that summit up there? Gorgeous, right? From down here, it looks impossible. You know what most people do?" Daniel shook his head. "They stand right here where we are, staring at it, talking about how amazing it would be to reach the top. They buy $300 hiking boots. They watch YouTube videos of other people summiting. They study maps and plan their route down to the minute. But they never actually take the first step onto the trail." Robert picked up his backpack, this worn, heavy thing covered in patches from different mountains. "Now here's what they don't get. This pack, it's heavy as hell. The first mile up, it's brutal. You're sweating, your legs are burning, you're thinking, what the hell did I get myself into? I should just go back to my car. But you know what happens when you push through that first terrible mile?" He looked straight at Daniel. "The impossible peak starts getting closer. Not because the mountain moved, but because you did." Robert stood up, shouldered his pack. "You're not lazy, kid. Lazy people don't have dreams. You're scared. You're scared that if you actually start, you might fail. And if you fail, it'll prove you're not as special as you tell yourself you are. So you stay in planning mode where you can still be perfect in your head." Daniel felt completely exposed, like this old man had just read his diary. "How do I stop being scared?" he asked. Robert laughed. "You don't. The fear never goes away. You just start anyway. You know what I've learned in 40 years of doing this?" He started walking up the trail, then turned back. "The only difference between dreamers and doers is this. Doers are willing to suck at the beginning. They're willing to be bad, to be slow, to look stupid. Because they understand that starting badly is 1,000 times better than never starting at all." Robert pointed up the trail. "I'm hiking up to Cascade Falls today, about 2 miles. You're welcome to join me, but here's my rule. No talking about whether you're ready, no asking if you have the right gear. Either you start walking right now, or you go back to your car and keep dreaming." Daniel looked at the trail. It was steep. He had Vans on. He didn't have water. Every excuse in the book flooded his brain. Then he thought about Alex, about the vision board, about 2 wasted years. He took 1 step onto the trail. Then another. "Let's do it," Daniel said. Robert smiled. "Now you're hiking." The first 10 minutes were absolute hell. Daniel's calves were on fire. His lungs felt like they were gonna explode. His mind was screaming at him. "You can't do this. Turn back, you're not a hiker. This is stupid." But Robert just kept walking ahead at this steady pace, and somehow Daniel kept putting one foot in front of the other. After about 30 minutes, something weird happened. His breathing found a rhythm. His legs stopped screaming. He wasn't thinking about the peak anymore. He was just walking. "You're doing what I call the first mile principle," Robert called back. "What's that?" Daniel asked, gasping for air. "Most people quit in the first mile, because that's when everything hurts. Your body's fighting you, your mind's throwing every excuse at you. But if you can just push through that first mile, you build momentum. And momentum makes the second mile way easier than the first." 2 hours later, they reached Cascade Falls. Daniel stood there, drenched in sweat, exhausted, but feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Pride. Not pride in planning or dreaming, but pride in actually doing something. That night, back in his apartment, Daniel's whole body ached from the hike, but his mind was crystal clear. He opened his laptop, not to watch Gary videos, not to take another online course, but to actually do something. He created a Google Doc, titled it "My Book First Draft," and he started writing. It wasn't good. It wasn't pretty. The next day, he wrote 200 more. His inner critic was losing its mind. "This is trash. You're not ready. You need to study more. Take another writing course. Read more books on storytelling." But Daniel remembered Robert's words. Doers are willing to suck at the beginning. So he kept writing badly, slowly, imperfectly. Day 3, another 200 words. Day 7, 300 words. Day 14, he had his first chapter. It was rough, it was messy, but it was complete. Here's where it got interesting. Once he started the book, starting other things became way easier. He signed up for a gym membership, not next month, that same day. His first workout was embarrassing. He could barely bench the bar, but he showed up the next day. He outlined his business idea, not perfectly, not completely, but he started researching, taking actual steps. 3 months later, Daniel met up with Alex again. This time, Daniel had something different to say. "I started writing that book I always talked about. It's not finished, but I'm at 15,000 words. I've been hitting the gym every morning at 6 a.m., and that business idea we used to talk about back in college. I'm building the prototype right now. Should have an MVP in 6 weeks. Alex's face lit up. "Bro, that's incredible. What changed?" Daniel smiled. "I stopped planning to start. I just started." Listen, Daniel's story is your story. It's my story. It's the story of anyone who has ever felt that painful gap between what they dream about and what they actually do. Here's the truth that nobody wants to hear. Your dreams don't care about your plans. Your goals don't give a damn about your vision board. The universe doesn't reward good intentions. It rewards action, period. Remember 3 things. First, you don't need to be ready. You need to start. Being ready is a myth. It's a security blanket that keeps you comfortable and stuck. Every single successful person you follow on Instagram started before they were ready. They started scared. They started unprepared, but they started. Second, the first mile is always the hardest. Your brain is going to scream at you to quit. That's not a sign you should stop. That's a sign you're exactly where every successful person has been at some point. Push through that first mile, and momentum will carry you through the second. Third, sucking at the beginning isn't failure, it's the entry fee. You're not supposed to be great on day 1. Perfection isn't the goal. Progress is. Messy action beats perfect inaction every single time. So here's what I want you to do right now. Stop watching this video and do one thing toward your biggest dream. Not tomorrow, not Monday, not when you feel ready, right now. Open a Google Doc, send that email, make that phone call. Do 10 push-ups, write 1 sentence, record 1 video. It doesn't matter if it's tiny. It doesn't matter if it's imperfect. What matters is you move from dreaming to doing. Because here's the secret nobody tells you. You're not ambitious but lazy. You're ambitious but scared. And the only cure for fear is action. The moment you take that first step, even if it's messy, even if it's small, you become a different person. You become someone who does. And once you're someone who does, everything changes. If this story lit a fire under you, Smash that like button and share this with someone who's been stuck in the planning phase for way too long. Drop a comment right now and tell me the one action you're taking today, not tomorrow today. I'll reply to as many as I can. And if you want more stories that push you to stop dreaming and start doing, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, remember what Robert said. The only difference between dreamers and doers is one step. Take it right now.